The London Gem and Mineral Show is back, taking place at Sandown Park Racecourse on Saturday the 23rd and Sunday the 24th of November. Experience the best of the crystal, mineral and fossil industry as we gather the finest specimens over 2 unforgettable days. You can discover hands-on workshops and activities, crack open your own geodes and delve into talks from the industry experts. And not forgetting that the Opal Whisperers from the Discovery Channel are back, coming all the way from Australia with some show-exclusive pieces in tow. So what are you waiting for? Join us for an immersive journey at the London Gem and Mineral Show, where traders and enthusiasts alike are invited to discover the Earth's natural treasures all under one roof. Book now at thegemandmineralshow.com or follow us on Instagram at The Gem and Mineral Show. We'll see you there. Want to discover London like never before? Step beyond the surface with WOW Tours. Explore the city's hidden spiritual secrets, walk ancient ley lines and uncover the mysteries of London's past, present and future. Brought to you by Wisdom on Wellness and led by renowned crystal author and Akashic Records reader Gemma Petherbridge, these are more than just tours. They're journeys into the heart of London's esoteric history. Book your spot today and see London through a whole new lens. Visit wowtourslondon.com for tickets. Hello and welcome back to the WOW Talks podcast. We are bringing you all of the juicy talks that were recorded live at our Wisdom on Wellness Festival this July, and in this episode, our fabulous host Sarah Lamptey sits down with the one and only Holly Matthews. Now, Holly is a former TV actress known for her roles in Waterloo Road, Casualty and Byker Grove, and she's also a former Sony music artist and now a powerhouse in the world of self-development. Holly is the founder of the Happy Me Project, a movement that spans live events, an award-winning book, a podcast, and an online self-development membership. And in today's episode, Weirdly Confident, Unmasking Your True Self, Holly shares her journey of embracing vulnerability and finding authentic confidence. From her viral TED Talk, watched by nearly 500,000 people, to her media appearances on Lorraine, the BBC, and more, Holly has inspired many to live boldly and without a facade. So settle in as we explore how to shed the masks and become unapologetically you. We hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I don't know how many of you are here for Paul Shepherd's talk, which is brilliant, and the fantastic talks continue and the most incredible experiences continue in the form of Holly Matthews, who is just
Hi everyone.
Phenomenal. And
Thank you.
through researching her, I mean, I started watching this TED Talk and was just in tears a couple of minutes in straight away.
Oh, thank you.
I did message her on Instagram and was like, I've just watched your TED Talk and I'm totally floored. And, you know, you are incredibly inspiring and everything you say in the TED Talk is just so, so moving. So it's such a pleasure and a real privilege to talk to you. There's so much to talk about.
I feel like I've lived 300 years. Like I really do. I'm 40 this year. And it does sometimes, when I'm doing these talks, I do sometimes feel like we go down one rabbit hole and we could talk for an hour. It does feel like I've lived 300 years. Really, it does.
You have so much experience, of course, so much acting. That must feel like another life, or does it?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So my background, I started in TV as an actress when I was 11 years old. So it does feel like life in different parts, although they cross over in ways that people don't always expect. So when I was growing up, all I wanted to be was an actor. It was just one track mind. I'm an actor. I'm going to be picking up my Oscar in Hollywood. There's nothing else. Don't speak to me about school. Don't speak to me about anything else. Don't talk to me about getting a job. Absolutely not. And then at 11 years old, I wrote a letter to a TV show in the Northeast, some of you will remember, called Byker Grove, which Ant and Dec were in. And I wrote this letter, and I have got it on a canvas. I was gifted it at my 30th birthday, and I genuinely had started to think that this was like an urban legend that I'd made up, because I knew I'd got in touch with him myself, but I wrote this letter, and my mum and dad found him on the computer, which I was surprised we even had, to be honest, but we did, and it's is there any designers in the room? Or no, that's okay, it's probably best. So it was written in Comic Sans, the font, which was like a designer dies when you use that font now. But at the time, we thought that was fancy. So it was fun, wasn't it? It was like a fun font. So I wrote it in that, and it says, Dear Dee, who was the casting director, my name is Holly and I'm an actress. So just affirmed it. I had zero doubt. I'm an actress. That's it. And then it says, I have green eyes, which I did in green, and brown hair, and I did it in brown, just visual. And then it just says, I'm an actress and I'm not shy one bit. Just letting them know. And then at the very bottom of it, it just says, P.S., please write back soon. And they did, and they got me in for an audition, and then I didn't get the part. So I auditioned about 6 times, didn't get the part. But actually, looking back now, what was interesting was I didn't think, well, that's it, I've failed, I should give up. I just thought, and my child, and this is how amazing when we're that age and we're open, I just thought, well, then it's doable. Because I got on set, I got close, so it's do it again. And then 6 months later, they wrote a part in for me. And so I ended up growing up on TV, which sounds really fun and exciting, but it brings with it its challenges. You are the kid off the telly. And so I grew up on TV. And also the fact is that people then get to tweet you pictures of yourself when you were a teenager.
Did you have braces? Did you go through that?
No, I was like, I was going to describe myself. Then I'm like, it ain't that much different, to be fair. I was just skinnier, really skinny, with gappy teeth. And I had spotty skin, and I hadn't learned. I mean, we didn't have tutorials on, TikTok and stuff, did we? I didn't know what I was doing. It was chaos. I'd shaved my eyebrows. Those that are my age, we grew up with like Pamela Anderson as our inspiration, with pencil thin eyebrows.
Yeah. And
I had basically a monobrow, and I decided to shave it in the middle, so my eyebrows were slightly further apart than you might hope. And
I always feel like, talking to you and hearing a bit about that, I just feel like you do and have always marched to the beat of your own drum, though. It does feel a bit like that. Because you talk about sort of childlike openness. And of course, as children, we are far more likely to throw ourselves into things, I suppose, without sort of worrying or fear of failure and all of that. But I just feel like that is an incredible thing, that almost like inbuilt resilience to know when you didn't make that. Because that could really crush a kid to not actually get that role.
I think, do you know what? I'm very lucky in that I come from a family that really did let me be. A normal working class family. My dad was a welder. My mum worked in a bank sometimes. I've got a younger sister. And I do come from a family of talkers. My dad's side of the family, you got to be quick. You're going to get a word in, you got to be sharp and quick and funny, and you got to tell a good story. And so I think that kind of level of, working class camaraderie, resilience, I think that plays a big part. But I was also just allowed to be, and, they let me be my weird self. They let that happen. And it was only really when I grew up and went into being a teenager and went to school, and suddenly everybody else's eyes were on. And then you start to have other people's opinions, and you start to worry, and you start to mask and mirror and try to be like everybody else. It's just that I took the mirroring and the mask. I took it so far that I became a professional actress. I'd really next leveled that one. But I do think, having a family that allowed me to be my weird self really allowed me to come back to that. So even during my teenage years, when I did what a lot of us probably did, which is let's just be the same, let's not stand out, that'll make us weird. I kind of instantly went back to that. And I think I always had this knowing, because I had this bigger picture in my mind, that there was more. And even from a self-development point of view, I look at, when I wrote my first book, I started to ask people around me, did I talk about this stuff when I was younger? And they were like, yeah, you did. You'd be in the green room on set, and you'd be saying, guys, life is not a dress rehearsal. You've got to get your shit together, because you've only got one shot here. Even if you believe in another life, another afterlife, or a heaven or anything, this one, you better get it right. And so I think there was just that in me, like a hopefulness about life. And that hasn't changed. Even when it's been hard, and it has been hard, I still always look for the good, look for the joy.
So that first book, when did that happen? When did that come about? And talk us a little bit about that.
The first book came about. So the first book my work is called The Happy Me Project. And it's all about, finding, your happy, whatever that looks like. So the first book, I always knew I would write a book. And I decided I would start talking about it. And there was a few things that kind of pushed me into doing it. One, I did Lorraine Kelly's show and I was interviewed by Lorraine. And then after the show, I went off and the producer was like, you should write a book. And I, being me, went, yeah, I've already put it together. So when I've written it, can I come back and talk about it? I was absolutely bullshitting. I had not written anything.
Are you your own agent as well then?
Well, yeah, I should have, but I didn't at the time. And I just put it out there. And then we were talking prior to this about, talking about the things that you want. We get told, don't talk about things you don't want, but really do talk about things you do want, even if you've got no idea how to make that happen. And with the book, I put it out on Instagram and just said, I'm writing a proposal for a book. I'm going to put it out to some people. And then I got a message in my inbox from a lady called Holly. So she definitely stood out because her name was Holly. She got extra points. And she just said, I work for Bloomsbury Publishing. Would you like to put it to me? And I knew Bloomsbury Publishing was Harry Potter. So I was like, is this Bloomsbury? Like, is it not like actually, like, is it a different one? So then I Googled her and I was like, oh my God, it's Bloomsbury Publishing. So then I threw my phone across the room in a mild panic because I have to write a proposal for Bloomsbury Publishing, and I panicked. And it came about right slap bang in the middle of lockdown. So 2019, I've put that proposal to them, and then they're like, yeah, something's happening in the world, and we all know what happened. And it was in the middle of lockdown, and my daughters aren't here. They're wandering around. They're sick of me. They've heard me talk. They've had enough. But do you know when we were allowed to go to the tip in lockdown, and we were all like, well, I was
favorite place.
Me too. Love it. Just discard it all. And so I was I like to obviously wind my kids up. So every time we were going to the tip or doing something really menial, like going to Starbucks for something exciting, the drive-through, I was like, guys, guess what we're doing? And making a big deal out. And then it was disappointing because it was the tip. So when I got this email through, it just said offer, and I was dead excited, really oh my God, I can't believe this. Went into the girls and my daughters are now 13 and 11. They're kicking around somewhere. And I went, guys, guess what's happened? Oh my God. And they went, oh, Mum, we're not going to the tip, are we? And I was like, no, I've got the book deal. So yeah, it came out 2022 and did really well. And it was, an experience.
I love talking to Holly. She's so wonderful. And I know you all love listening to her already. I'm not even on question 1 yet. Do you know that?
She just winds me up at the back and it doesn't stop.
But it's incredible. And there is so much to say. And a lot of what we've talked about so far is optimism and a hope and resilience and throwing yourself into life and childhood. We haven't talked about the most tragic thing I think that anyone could go through. And when I watched your TED Talk and we talked about unfairness, and this is the thing which really I think got to me, right to the heart, is because I think those words can ring in all of our ears. If they haven't already, they probably will. This is so unfair. How can this be happening?
Yeah.
And I talked about a life of two halves. I mean, when you talked about unfairness on that TED Talk, has anyone watched that TED Talk, by the way, in here? Yeah. And you talked about unfairness, and it was just straight away I thought, yes, it's so easy and so natural to just go, this can't be happening, and push it away. Why me? And had you already experienced the unfairness of life, prior to 2014?
Yeah. So in 2000, I'll just explain for those that never saw it. So firstly, if anyone wants to watch the TED Talk, it is called Tough Luck, Why Accepting Life's Unfairness Will Set You Free. And it's something I really, really believe. And when people hear me speak, especially when I'm, talking about positive things, it's easy to think that that's everything that is somebody's life, and to think, well, it's easy for you. It's easy for you because you're an actor and but you had all this privilege and all of that. And it's not true. Just like none of us, we all have many things happen in our life. And in 2014, so I met my husband, Ross. How long? I don't even know when we met. I was 20, maybe 20, no, 21, 22, something like that. And I was living in Essex with another boy, with a mortgage, with a dog, and was not happy. I met my husband on a job for Pimm's didn't drive at the time, so left my boyfriend of 6 years and the mortgage and the dog. I kept the dog, but got the mega bus to Coventry and didn't come back. And Ross and I were absolutely just the best friends. Like, we laughed, we joked. Ross would always say, those that play together stay together. And it really was who we were. In 2014, Ross was diagnosed with grade 4 brain cancer, rare brain cancer. And Ross would always say, so Ross was, if you met Ross, anyone who met him would have a story about him. He's a big character, autistic, very direct, very funny, would have absolutely commanded any room he walked into. And he would often say, I'm one of a kind. And I would say, well, I really think that's for other people to decide. He would say, no, I'm one of a kind. When he got a one of a kind brain cancer, I was obviously very annoyed at him for that, because that's not the one of a kind you want to get. But it was what he got. It was what we got as a family. And from the very beginning of that, we dealt with it head on. And neither of us, and I know there'll be lots of you in here be very spiritual, you believe in God and afterlife, and that's cool. And I don't judge that nor put my opinions on that. For me, it's I'm here and I'm not. And Ross was the same. And so life felt very precious because of that. And Ross would say, they tell me I've got cancer. I can't feel it. I'll just live my life. And we did. And when Ross was diagnosed, we obviously, we were devastated. I was devastated. It was, we had in some ways, we had no experience of cancer, which was a blessing in some respects because we were very ignorant. But we just went, look, let's just deal with it. We'll get what we get and we'll seek the joy in between it. And that's what we did. And then in 2017, Ross died of brain cancer. And everything shifted for me. It shifted when Ross was diagnosed, and you've already heard me speak about, how much I wanted to be an actor. It was literally everything in my brain. I had 2 daughters, so that shifts things. Parents, you will know that. It shifts your mindset a little. But it was a really strange experience for me that when Ross was diagnosed, I had this shift in my brain that was, it's not repairable. It hasn't gone back to the way it was. That's not a negative thing. It just has shifted so much. At the time, I just finished doing BBC Casualty. I was booked to do, it was a big storyline in that. I was booked to do a film. And I remember coming home and ringing my agent and saying, just kill anything. I don't want to do anything. And in that moment, I couldn't even remember why I ever wanted to do it. It didn't make any sense. My brain was like, I don't know why I ever wanted to do that. It was so shifted, but it wasn't shifted in a way that was negative, I guess. It was just a different priority, a different importance on things. But it also, everything that happened with Ross, it stripped away the bullshit and the nonsense and the stories we tell ourselves. It stripped it away, where I went, well, the world that I knew had Ross alive in it, and that made sense. And now Ross is dead. Nothing makes sense. And so I know nothing. And so I have to be a student again. I have to just open up and go, what do I want in my life? What do I want for my daughters? How do I want things to look? And that really, shifted how I behaved, especially in those early stages of, Ross dying and how other people expected me to behave, and how they felt comfortable with me behaving. I just went, no, I need to do, as you said at the beginning, I've always done everything in my own way. And I've not really recognized that until recently, that at every stage, everything I've done in my life, there's been the voice of, don't do it like that. You shouldn't be doing it like that. You should be doing it like this. This is the proper way. This is the safe way. And every stage I've went and I've checked in and went, no, thank you. I'll do it my way. And being a widow was the same. It was the same for me.
And you talk about this as well, the words, the label widow, and all the connotations, all the associations with that, and of course the label victim as well, and how that kind of can shape our identity, shape how we feel about ourselves, shape how we move through the world as a result. Yeah. What was the turning point for you? Because it would feel, I think anyone in this room would go, it would be very understandable to be stuck in rage and the sense of unfairness and sorrow, of course, and be stuck with that almost forever, really.
And I see, and I think And I see people there, and there may be people in the room that feel that as well. And please never mistake my being able to talk about it or my being able to find the positive with stoicism or not crying. Like, I still cry. Ross died the 29th of July. So my body is in a weird state right now because, as we probably, your body keeps the score. So I know my body's like, I can feel it. Like, I feel it in July. I always feel it coming up. And yeah, I've forgotten the question you asked me. Sorry.
No, well, this is all part of it.
Oh, it was about the labelling and how I move forward.
Yeah, so exactly,
I remember when I was in the hospice, so there was a lot of noise. So because of me being an actor, Ross's dad was also a high-level Premier League footballer. There was a lot of press. And it was, I'm in a weird place when you think about younger people now. They're all on a platform because they're all on social media, and they've grown up with that platform. Being 40, I'm that cusp of, I'm grandma millennial. So like, I grew up without the internet, but lived with the internet. So, but my work, because being 11, I was on TV when nobody was on TV, nobody had social media, and, Byker Grove was getting, 6 million viewers. That was a lot of people. There was a lot of eyes on it. There was a lot of judgment of myself and from other people. And so because of that, it gives me a different level of understanding of that. And, growing up always with eyes on, I understand that, and I don't take any of it seriously because it's all nonsense. But when Ross was dying, there was just so much press. It was on every national newspaper. There was paparazzi at the funeral. Like, it was a different level of intrusion and people knowing your business. There was still some positives of that. I never had to tell anyone Ross died, which that's horrible to have to do, that dump of having to do that. I never had to. But it just meant so many people were watching. And I remember we had nearly a month in the hospice, which is quite unheard of, to be honest. But I think probably that there was a lot of eyes on, and that he was 32. And, the hospice staff were incredible. It was Mighton Hospice in Warwickshire. And I remember being in the hospice and really, it was taking every part of me to work through this. And I remember thinking to myself, you have to take it in and you have to practice acceptance of this, because it is happening. And the minute, and I think it was Paul was talking a little bit about resisting anxiety earlier. It's the same with any of our stuff, the painful stuff that's external, we can't control it. Anxiety is slightly different because some of that was within our control. But let's say the external, the crap stuff we have to deal with, a huge chunk of that we can't actually control. But yet we'll still sit in that space of going, nope, this is not going to happen. He's not going to die. And I knew he was dying. And I had to find that acceptance of it. And because Ross had brain cancer, Ross didn't really go into the hospice. His body did, but that's just a vehicle. It's literally a meat suit. Like, it wasn't Ross. And I found that really difficult in that Ross and I had lots of conversations around the year prior, when we knew this was not a battle he was going to be able to win anytime soon. So we'd been told in 2016 it was growing again. He'd had 2 brain surgeries, chemo, radio, all of the cannabis in the world before anyone gives me that one. I had about 3 million messages. You know what he needs to? Yeah, okay, he did that. He still died. So it's not for everyone. Everyone's journey is different. That's a really important message. And yeah, when we had that conversation, Ross was like, well, what Ross was saying to me was, well, what if I'm really disabled after this surgery and I don't want to be here? He was like, you're going to have to kill me off, which is a horrible conversation. And I'm laughing because Ross was so direct about it. And what he actually said was, I don't want you feeding me fucking yogurt and I'm not having it, right? So when we were in the hospice, because we were so direct as a couple, that helped but then in that instance, it was hard because I was feeding him yogurt. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was the level we were at. But then it was actually a lovely doctor in the hospice who said to me, but this is a different version of Ross now. And this version of you needs to feed him yogurt, needs to be just that version. But I think that was hard. But it was all, for me, it was acceptance of what was. And I meditated in the ground to the hospice and I focused on that. And I also find, for me, and this will be different for everyone, in times of crisis, I need to create, not consume. I need to do something with it. I need to put that pain somewhere, whether that's art, whether that's my work, whether that's writing, whether it's singing. I need to put it somewhere, that pain. And I need to not consume means zone into your world. Get off the social media that's causing you stress. Don't be around the people that are causing you stress or not bringing you joy. Like, I needed to be in a bubble. And I did that. And also, you're talking about the labels of widow. I was Googling like what it's going to be like. What's it like to be a widow? And it was the most miserable stuff you've ever seen. In fact, recently I was doing a talk on grief and I Googled the word widow for something and it gave me like different versions, similar things, similar words to that. Those words, firstly, it mentioned widow spider, but aside from that, it was like old witch. I was like, great, old hag, mean old woman. I'm like, what a horrible connotation. I was 32 with 2 young kids and like, I didn't want that and I rejected it. And I think that was also a turning point. It was one of those moments. And I remember, everyone's judgment was coming in and it was loud and I was thinking, how do I do this? And I just had to think to myself, you've done nothing up to this point in your life that was expected of you. You've done it in your own way and you'll do this in your own way. So, and I said the same to my daughters. We'll laugh when we laugh, we'll cry when we cry, we'll be mad as hell when we're mad. And that, that's an important part of it, grief. People don't want to talk about rage. I was pissed off at him for dying. I was pissed off. I'm pissed off every time I have to take the bins out myself or every time, it's me and your stupid stuff. I'm like, for fuck's sake, I'm not built for this, but also I think the thing that really gave me comfort was Ross's mindset. So because Ross was so direct and very matter of fact about life, he was like, listen, if anyone was going to get cancer and die, I'd be the best one to do it because I'm all right with it. I've been here to I've done what I needed to do. At 32, he was like, I regret nothing. I've done everything I needed to do. My girls are incredible, and that's it. And that gives me comfort. So in the times when it's like hard, I'm like, Ross did what he needed to do on this planet, and he made a mark. And those of you, and it'll be all of us in some respect, whether you've had the big grief or not, you've probably had grief, right? And I always say to people, your person mattered. Like they mattered because you care. Like Ross matters because even talking about him now, I can feel a lump in my throat. Like he matters because he's literally running through my daughters like a stick of rock, and he made his mark. And that's, if we can want for anything in life, we come here and we did something and someone cared, someone gave a shit that we were here, and he did that. So I think that's helped me through. But I think it's not putting pressure on myself. From the beginning, I sort of said to myself, if I have a breakdown and I like fully like lose it, then that's okay. If I'm okay, then that's okay. If I laugh, that's okay. And I just gave myself permission. I think that helped me the most. Just giving myself permission for whatever comes, let it be. And whatever that looks like to other people, that ain't my business.
That's
Their
it.
business.
And what an incredible human he was. And I think with those words, of course, he set you up. I mean, to say that I've done everything I need to do, and to say that at 32 is, and it sounds like he believed it. He was true. It was absolutely it was the reality. And so since then, of course, tell me about acting. Are you acting still? Are you doing?
So I never say never to anything. I did a couple of acting. It was actually award-winning, so I'm going to put it out there. Award-winning comedy show that was on Amazon. It's just a small one. They're going to repeat that series, and my character was only a tiny part. So I do bits and pieces if it's fun, but it's literally only on my terms. Yeah. And it's not the driver for me now. Like my work, so the Happy Me project is something I absolutely love, and I have this driver in me when I see lovely people like you guys to go, how can you guys all be living a life that feels great? And for whatever reason, for me, it's not enough for me to feel happy and then to walk around seeing people not live the life they want to live. Like I want to help, and I don't mean tell you how to do it, that's not my business, but I mean I want to help my community and the people that I work with and those that read my books to find their route, because it feels too important, and that feels more important than acting to me. Although I still do like TV stuff and things like that, it's a different space than it was. And yeah, my oldest daughter wants to be an actor, so I keep saying, she's like, well, if you did that, then I could maybe be your daughter in it. And I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens. I don't have any tension around it. And actually, what's hilarious about that is when you don't have any tension around the things that you want, it comes to you. So people keep trying to throw acting thing at work at me. I'm like, if it's not aligned with what I want to do, then it's not now.
Absolutely. So now to be aligned with what you want to do, how is that looking? Because you're doing so much, you're so busy,
I know.
and it's incredible.
It's positive busy though, it's not blind busy, because I am flying about everywhere at the minute. But the Happy Me project really did come about in the hospice. I'd been doing self-development work for myself as an actor, because it's hard being an actor and being the kid off the telly, and I had loads of issues around hating the way I looked and lots of anxieties around stuff. And I was doing all the work in the background for years. I trained as a life coach. I never thought I would sort of do it. I just wanted to be an actor. But then when Ross was ill, I started to talk more about the stuff that I knew, which felt very second nature to me. But I started to talk about it and felt, oh, people resonated with it. And because my bouncy entrepreneurial brain was like, ooh, let's do a thing. I was starting to build my coaching practice while Ross was ill, and it was somewhere to put stuff, and it felt, again, positive. When Ross was in the hospice, I started to put together something called the Happy Me Project, which was originally an online course, nothing pretty about it. I had my phone at the bottom of the stairs recording and video and doing videos and putting content together. There was nothing like pretty, but the content was, so many people were messaging me and saying, how are you dealing with this? What do you do? Like day-to-day, practically stuff, not like high level. What do you do? What techniques? And so I originally put this like 21-day course together with tips, trips, just really simple things that you could do, pushed it out into the world, no pomp or ceremony. And because I wanted an answer for people. I didn't have it in me to coach people or anything at the time, obviously, but I wanted to give them something and not just like a nothing message on Facebook. It didn't feel enough. So I thought, well, if I give them that, I know it's good. I know that's stuff that can, give them some insight and some guidance, and maybe it'll spark something and they'll go somewhere with that. And I just put it out like that. And within like a few months of Ross's death, I was seeing like hundreds of people do it. And it was like a 30 quid course. It wasn't like a big expensive course. And then by the end of that year, I started to think, well, maybe I could do a bit more people stuff. And I put a workshop together, and I did 16 different workshops within the space of a year and a half, and they were all sellout workshops, and people came and we talked about this stuff. And what really drives me is trying to find, I guess, the low-hanging fruit of self-development in that. And it's not really low-hanging fruit, but I mean the stuff that when we're in the shit, when we're feeling horrendous, we don't really want someone to like come and give us a load of high-level psychology. Just
you need sort of
give
quick wins.
Give me some quick wins, because I'm struggling here. And so that interests me a lot. And how do we fit it into our busy lives? If we're a parent or we're caring for somebody, we've got stuff going on, how do we do this? And so when I put that out and started to do it, it just had legs of its own. Like it was very organic as a piece of work, because it was built on other people. And then when we were in lockdown, I was very set up for online stuff. And again, times of crisis, I like to create, not consume. And so during lockdown, I was like, okay, well, I'll just go live every day and I'll just talk about stuff like this. And it meant, because everyone was online, there was a lot more people, a lot more eyes on again, and people who'd never done this stuff. Well, maybe you guys were some of those people, never until lockdown realized, ooh, without the distractions, I don't feel that good. I need all the distractions in the world. And yeah, distractions can be fun. There's nothing wrong with them but there was a lot of people came to my work. And that was when, well, essentially the first book that I wrote, before each live, people would obviously come back every day and they would tell me things they wanted to talk about. For each live, because I've got a bit of a danger mouse brain where I like to not like think too much before I speak, which is fun for everybody because we don't know what's going to come out, neither do I. And I just, before each session, I'd have Post-it notes out, and I just think, right, what are we going to talk about? And then I just jot down like notes on these Post-it notes. And it just ended up being this big pile of this like ramblings of a lunatic. And when I wrote the book, I just took all of these out and was like, I think that's the book there. I'll find some stuff in there. And that's how it came about. So that, yeah, I mean, it really has had legs. And when the book came out, there's just been such a lot of, now I'm in a position where there's the first book. There is, I have a membership called the Happy Me Project membership, which I continued the live sessions every day, and people can be in there. We do big deep dives in there. We get guest speakers in there. It's a lovely community as well. And you guys, anyone, and in fact, all of you that are here today, if anyone would like a free month in the membership, just follow me on Instagram or Facebook and drop me a message and I'll send you a link and you can all try it out, see what you think. I'm at I am Holly Matthews on all the social media. And so it's that, podcast, events, and then we can see here, just this week, I announced my new book is coming out, which I'm so excited about, which is Find Your Confidence, a no-nonsense guide to self-belief. And this has just been a chance for me to really kind of integrate all the stuff from my acting and my self-development, because not only am I talking about the internal mindset, how can I feel confident, believe in myself and all of that, and push away self-doubt, but also how do I physically look confident and speak confidently? The two do come together, and I know the fake it till you make it is quite triggering for people, but it only doesn't work if you don't do the internal stuff as well. Fake it works. I'm an actor. It works. You suddenly believe in yourself.
So it's so important. And those quick wins, we have to just rewind a little bit, because you talked about quick wins. And I think that is so important. Of course, there's so much. And wellness, there's, outside, there'll be so much advice. There'll be so much guidance. It can feel quite overwhelming. And I think particularly if you are experiencing crisis or grief, it can feel impossible to sort of access. Talk to me about some of those little tips that you were giving, and also what people were talking about at that time in 2020.
So quick wins are always, firstly, get to basics first, right? Before, and this is going to sound basic, but I always think this, because even when we know this stuff, which lots of you here will, we don't take our own advice. No, we all think somehow we're superhuman and we don't actually have to do the stuff like drink our water, get some sleep, get our backsides outside, move our body. And I'm not talking about high level. I'm not talking about move your body. You have to go to the gym every day. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying just move. Well, we had our man earlier. I forgot. It's the back there.
Courtney Orange.
Yeah, fantastic. Your move, he's creeping out. You're not coming out. I'm joking. You can go. But your work with movement, that to me, brilliant. Like those simple things that you were teaching us, that's perfect, because there's nothing complicated about that. But that can change everything. So first, it's get back to basics. And get back to basics also means some sort of connection. It means like, are you connecting with anyone? Because it's easy not to, right? But that's really, really important for us. And if you check in with yourself and you think, I don't know if I have that with anyone, then that's tough, and I'm not like minimizing that, but then it's explore that. Let's go, because there's a whole big world out there, and you're wonderful, and let's find that connection. So first, it's always for me, right? If I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling in a space of stress, I go, right, well, what have I dropped the ball on? And I guarantee it's one of them, definitely, or all of them, right? So I start there. Okay, can I just have a glass of water? Can I get myself in this outside, get some vitamin D for a bit? Can I move a little bit? I'm not saying that's going to change the world, because it's not. But if we don't have that basic foundation, anything else chucked on top, it's a shit show, right?
We do often forget the things that are the simplest, actually.
We don't want to do them because they're a bit boring. They are a bit boring because we think, but like make it fun, dance, make it fun. So basics first. And then I always go back to, what story am I telling myself right now about this? What is the story? Because it's always about that. How am I framing this? What am I telling myself on loop? Because we talk about like meditation, affirmations and stuff like that. And people who don't do those things, in the positive versions of those, will say, I don't really get it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're affirming some awful stuff every day, I guarantee it. And you're probably kind of meditating on your negative stuff as well. Without realizing or calling it meditation, you're basically fermenting all of your pain in your head and putting it on loop. And that's what we do. That's our brain. We have to remind ourselves, our brain is literally designed to keep us alive, not thrive. Literally just, and I think about Ross in the hospice, and and this is an awful conversation to have had to have, but I remember before Ross was in the hospice, just before, the doctors and Ross was at this stage, he was very, very brain damaged. He had brain tumors throughout his brain and was in a wheelchair. This was not Ross as I knew Ross. He wasn't speaking. He was very ill. And the doctor said to me, well, we could give him this type of chemotherapy. And this was like maybe June or something. Like, we might keep him here till September. And I just went, what's the point? That sounds rough to say. That's my husband. I loved him with my absolute being. Like, every part of me loved that man. But I was like, what's the point? You don't want that. We can just keep his body alive. That's not living. And this is what we have to remind ourselves. Our brain's job, and it's doing a great job, we're all here, it's doing a great job of keeping us alive, but we want to thrive. So our brain is seeking the negative. It's looking for danger everywhere, and it's seeing it where it is not all the time. And it frames all of our experiences in a way that isn't positive to keep us alive. But we've got to work hard, and you're here at a wellness festival, so I'm pretty sure you guys are on board with this message. We've got to work to get our brain to shift the story. And that's all about, which you'll have talked about lots today, about reframing that. And even when, I go back to really basic language that we use, because that's important. So when I was in the hospice and people would say, they do the head tilt. How are you? How are you in yourself? And I always think about, if someone asks me how I am, I genuinely think about it. I just think it's a hard question. Like, how far do we want to go here, guys? Are you ready for this?
They want to know the answer.
Do you really want? Because I will give you it. I will give you the answer. And I'm a little clammy. I'm a little bit hot right now. But but I just would always think about it, and I think, what's the best? Before I spoke, I would think, what's the best story for me here? And in that, my answer was often, I'm okay. I'll be better. I would say that I'm okay, and I'll be better. And because I affirmed that message, that's what my brain heard. And that wasn't denial. I wasn't saying, oh, I'm great, I'm so good, I'm fine, I'm good. I wasn't bullshitting, but I needed to cling to enough to get me through what was happening. And any one of you in here would have very comfortably been happy with me saying it's a living, breathing nightmare. Like, I wish I was dead. Like, if I'd said that, everyone would have went, oh, I understand. They'd probably be more comfortable with that, because they weren't comfortable with me saying, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm going to find a way. That was much more uncomfortable for people. And other people would give me their story of what that would look like. So when we are in our darkest moments, when we're in crisis or overwhelm, or we're just feeling meh, and we don't know what that means, but we just feel it, and we just know this isn't it. That's sometimes we don't know what it is, but we know this isn't it. And we feel that feeling. Get back to basics, and then look at what story you're telling yourself, and then ask yourself, what would be better than this? What could I do right now that would be one step better? Not like 10 steps in the future. That's too hard. I couldn't have thought, when Ross was dying, I couldn't have thought about being on the stage joyful. I guess on a high level I could have, but not really, not in that moment. It was just one foot in front of the other. Look for the joy. Train your brain to look for joy in everything. When I'm in this room, I can see joy. I can see nice prints and fabrics, and your dress is looking gorgeous, and your beautiful faces. I'm looking for joy all the time. And because I trained my brain to do that, I forced it, I dragged it back to where I wanted it to be. It now becomes second nature. And I know Paul was talking earlier, when you're, learning those resilience things when you're not in crisis. It's a great tip, because when I was in crisis, I'd been doing that stuff a long time, and it really served me well. Gratitude, people think that's, every bloody person that talks about well-being says gratitude. Maybe the word's wrong for you. I just now say, look for joy, look for something good, look for something that feels like joy. And that could be, being British, it could be a cup of tea. I always go back to the cup of tea. It's a very simple joy, and it brings me joy to my life every day. If that's all we've got on a day, it's better than thinking about the crap. Like, it's better than that. So dragging yourself to that and looking at that story, but always checking in with yourself and asking yourself, what do I want? What do I want in life? And knowing that even if you don't know how to make it happen, don't worry about that bit. I did not know how to write a book. I did not know that. I did not know how to do any of the stuff I'd done. I just went, I want to do that, and I'm going to work it out, and I'm going to ask the right people. I'm going to see who, someone else knows how to do it. And listen, I'm not special. If there's anything that I'm saying, you're like, well, no, I'm not. I'm a normal human being like you guys. So we can all do whatever we want, right? We can find a way and talk about the things that you want. Because when you say, I want that, and whatever it is, even if it feels really left field, it feels really unusual to people, so what you hear once, or some of you believe in lots of afterlives, but on this one, you've got this one. So give it a shot. And, And come and tell me what your dreams are and your goals, because they're the type of things I like to talk about. Maybe I can help, I don't know.
I think you definitely can. You know, talking about finding your confidence, I think sometimes though it's so buried, or for a lot of us completely void, and we've just we've never can identify somebody who is confident. And I think actually talking about your dreams is sort of, you could almost have a bit of self-esteem to begin with, to dare to dream. We talk about
terrifying.
that. So where do we even begin to start if we really feel like our self-esteem is, we know that is not something that we can even imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine dreaming. I can't dare to dream. Where do we start?
Really scary. Yeah. And I think there's not a person out there, no matter how confident they might appear or are, that doesn't feel scared about that. When I said to my friends and stuff that I wanted to write a book, and I wanted it to be with one of the biggest publishers in the UK, because I didn't say I wanted to self-publish. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fabulous. But I knew I wanted Bloomsbury or Penguin. I knew I wanted the big ones. And when I said that, I wanted to throw up in my mouth. I wanted to be sick. I was so scared saying it. And so I don't think we have to bring the fear with us, firstly, because it's not going to go away. It doesn't matter what level you're at, the fear will be coming with you. I think at the first level, because you're right, there will be lots of you in this room will identify as having low self-esteem and aren't confident. And you might look at me and think, well, that's a confident woman. But it's learned behavior. It is practiced behavior, and it's been practiced uncomfortably. And if you'd met me as a kid, even when I was on a TV set, I didn't speak my truth always. I knew how to pretend, but I wasn't really being myself. I was wearing a mask. It's taken a long time for me to get to a stage where I'm really open and being myself. All of it, the mess, the chaos, everything. So I think start with the decision that you've noticed. I've noticed that I doubt myself a lot. I don't really believe in myself. And I don't want to feel like that anymore. It's stopping me from living. And asking yourself, what is it stopping me doing? What would I be, if I could wave a magic wand and say, you've all got really high levels of self-esteem, you fully believe in yourself, next level, delusional, level of confidence, which I'm all about. If I could do that, what would it give you? In fact, does anyone want to say, what would it, some of you might be highly confident, but does anyone want to share a goal or a dream? I'm totally putting you on the spot, and the unconfident ones are like, absolutely not. Why would you ask me that? Anyone? You're just looking terrified at me. I'm not even sorry. Do you have a goal? Yes, tell me. Hang on, we need the microphone. We need your microphone. We can't hear you. What's your name?
Annie.
Hi, Annie.
Hi.
Right.
So I'm similar to you. Oh, well, not you now, but surfer with lack of self-belief. And my dream is I'm renovating a horse trailer and turning it into the Galloping Gut Hut, which is all about freedom and helping people live their own version of freedom. And I'm also building a podcast called Break Free, How to Stop Conforming, Start Living. It sounds like I've got it all together, but behind the scenes, I am beating myself up massively, and I'm hiding in the shadows, and I need to step forward. And I'm a visionary. I've got the idea, but actually believing in it and doing it. I'm so scared people aren't going to come on the podcast. People are going to turn me down. The rejection wound. Yes. You're right. I think we.
Seriously, right? So thank you. Oh, so on a serious note, right? Firstly, love it so much. Great idea, brilliant. And you've spoken and just told a whole room of people who are definitely going to check that out, right? That's amazing. Where can they find you though, Annie? Are you on?
I'm talking to. Oh, sorry. I am speaking tomorrow as well.
Oh, amazing.
On ADHD.
I have ADHD as well. So we have all the ideas, Annie. It's great.
It's taking action and believing in yourself. It's like a daily practice, isn't it?
It is. So the action is the key, right? And that's what I was going to say next is, when we are lacking in confidence, when we are doubting ourselves, don't think of the bigger picture. You've got great ideas. So your brain's going to ping those ideas off, and they're great, right? They're fun, they're great, they're going to be fabulous. And what will happen is, because your brain's constantly whirring, you'll overthink it till you burn out, because you've got a busy brain, right? That's just the reality of it. And it doesn't matter whether you've got ADHD. We all have anxious brains, and we're busy, and there's so much stimulation. So I think it's thinking about just the first step. don't think about all harder to do, but don't think of the big picture, because that feels too scary. Like if I'd have thought when my book hit, I mean, I'm gonna fully brag. My first book got to #1 in all of the charts on Amazon, and I was so, thank you very much. And it won an award. Health and Wellbeing magazine gave me the Wellbeing Book of the. I was like overjoyed by that, but I was a little bit astounded by it. But if I'd have thought to myself when I said I want to do a book, I'm going to write the bestseller, that'd have been too much. Like it was hard enough to say I wanted to do it. So break it down into the smallest step, the most boring, I'm going to come back up, most boring, like simplest step. And just go with that. And when your brain wants to go, oh, but what if, drag it back to, we're not doing all of that. Like you've got to trick your brain a little bit and just say, I'm just doing that one step. So the first step, whatever that is, you're doing your talk tomorrow. And the first step is you just told us, right? You told all this room full of people that that's what's happening. And that's so cool. That might be it. And watching the noise in your head, we have to have more positive stuff coming in about ourselves and our ideas than negative. But you can self-edit in the moment. So you might hear in your head, and it might be, oh, no one's going to listen to this, no guests are going to come on. In that moment that happens, notice it, stop it. And you say I do a click. I often do a click or a stamp or a clap when I'm just to really get it in my head. I will say out loud to myself, no, not that story. And out loud, no, not that story. What's the next story? And I will change the story and I will give myself something else. Even if I don't fully believe it, it's in that moment, and we've got to stop that pattern in the moment. And that's what I will do. Well done, Annie.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's wicked. I was actually going to ask you about the first step for procrastinators as well, because in terms of productivity, I know so much of your coaching is focused on that. I think a lot of us can procrastinate and not realise it and not realise why. So I guess the one of the bit of guidance you'd give is find out what that millistep is, the first step in order to start, because it's often
make
fear
it
of failure.
Fun as well. I think a lot of things that we do, like it's a bit boring being an adult sometimes. It's not as fun as being young and fun. And when so I try to make things that are boring fun and quick, and I gamify a lot of things. So if I've got to do the washing, that's so boring. Why do I have to do that? Or I don't like cooking, so I hate that too. I make it quick, I make it fun, I make it easy as much as possible. Sometimes you just got to get into a bit of a flow to get you started. So you got to trick your brain, because when we're procrastinating, there's usually fear under the surface. We don't take the steps because I don't want to, because what if I do that and then all these other things happen? So it's usually fear. So yes, explore that, but also just go for the lowest hanging fruit, the lowest thing, just the smallest bit. If you can get moving, once you're moving, you can often do more than you think. But when we're not, when we're just in paralysis of thought, we can't get up, then that's too hard. So just the smallest thing and see what that changes. Or shift it up, change your surroundings. I mean, it could be change your surroundings in your house, like move your furniture or whatever, do something different. Or get out the house, go for a walk, go somewhere else, come to a wellness festival, great idea. And just shift it up so you literally get a different perspective, or you have a different conversation that makes you do the thing a little bit quicker.
I'm just sitting here thinking you must be the most remarkable parent, you know, and guide for your two daughters. What kind of? Yeah, I know. I'm going to ask them. What kind of parent are you?
I probably had to be a different parent to I thought I was going to be. So my girls are here kicking around somewhere. I don't know what they're up to, but we've had to be I'm very honest with my girls. I don't really know what the lie is supposed to be, so I've always just told them honestly. And when Ross died, you know, I really had to commit to being as open and honest about everything as possible. And I said to myself, I will answer whatever question they have, even if it makes me feel uncomfortable, which it really often did. Yeah. And because of the age of the girls when Ross died, the conversations, how do you explain death to a child? That's a really hard conversation. And so I had to learn.
And how old were they?
4 and 6.
4 and 6.
So I remember Brooke, particularly, who's my older daughter, I remember her ringing me in the hospice, and bear in mind, I'd been there a month. They'd come into the hospice, but there was a point when it wasn't appropriate. And they'd said goodbyes and they'd said their stuff. And I said, that's enough now, because you're watching someone's body, and that's not the same. You know, you're watching somebody die, and that's different. And that wasn't pleasant for the girls to see that, because it's not the dad that they knew. And when about 2 days before he died, Brooke called me and she said, "Mummy, I really want you to come home, but I know that if you come home, it means Dad's dead, doesn't it?" And I was like, yeah, it does. And, you know, saying those things, that talking to the girls about that, telling the girls, is the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life. Like, it's the worst. And I was lucky enough to get some guidance on, I guess, how to speak to them from Jeff Brazier, who was married to Jade Goody, who was on Big Brother, and his sons obviously experienced their mum dying of cancer. And he was really good in that. He said to me, you know, when you do tell them, like, make it positive in some way. Get balloons, get colouring pens, get something good. And so when I came home, they were so happy. And that was really hard, because they were like jumping all over me, excited to see me. And then there was that moment when they realised what that meant. And we cried and we sat together. And when we'd done that enough, I said, why don't we go and draw some pictures? And then we sat and we did some drawing, and it was quite, Brooke drew all of the family, and it was obviously very subconscious. And then she drew Ross just slightly off from everybody. I've still got that picture somewhere, and I think it was just her way of processing it, you know. And from that beginning, we had things like question boxes in my house. I said, you can ask me anything, you can say anything, you have to get it out your body, like, it's okay. And so I let my daughters swear, I let them be who they need to be, I let talk about it, get it out. And we used to do sweary poems before bed, which was, just trying to get them to sleep. I mean, getting your kids to sleep at the best of times is a challenge. When you've got grieving kids, it has an extra layer. And so we were going through all the things, and I used to, it was a random day. I'm very good at quick, rubbish poems, really quick, funny, rhymey poems, love a rhyme. So I said to them, right, okay, tell me what your day has been like at school, and then give me 2 swear words each, and I'll make a poem out of it. And then I would go away. If anyone wants to, I found 2 of them the other day, actually. So if anyone wants one, again, message me on Instagram or whatever, I'll send you the poem. And we used to do that. And I used to just let them get it out in any way. We had get it out books that they would write in. And I would say, you can write anything you want in them. I will never read them if you don't want me to. You can write anything. You can write bad words. You can be sad. You can all the things. And not often at that age, they would still want me to read them. But I think that's how we've done it. And I always talk about all of the self-development stuff that we talk about. We've done meditation, affirmations when they were younger, and all of the stuff. They're now at an age where they're, going into secondary school. Obviously, they're not listening to me because I'm not cool and I'm not their mom, and I don't have 1 million followers on TikTok, so I'm nobody. Obviously, that's a joke. But we still do the same. We're a chaotic and feral household, and we shout a lot and we laugh a lot and we love each other, and it's not perfect. And I never profess to be a perfect parent, because there's no such thing. And I drop the ball and make mistakes all the time. But one thing I've always done with the girls is, if you make a mistake, you have to acknowledge that mistake and talk about it and apologize if you've done something wrong. And that's always been something. And one thing that does give me heart, oh, there they are, look, we're talking about it, they ran off now. One thing that does is I do hear them talking about what I say to other people. So it's getting in, they won't do it in front of me. Girls, you can come in if you want. We're literally just talking about you. You're all right. This is Texas and Brooke. So, yeah, and I think honesty has been our best policy from the beginning. And we have, I'm very, very biased, obviously, but they're good kids, and I'm really lucky that I've got them.
And they're so, so lucky to have you. We don't have many minutes left. I was actually going to throw it to the audience, but it might be better actually that they talk to you one-on-one, because I've just got one question. In your TED Talk, you talk about being open to the possibilities of Plan B. And I think when we all think about what our Plan A would be, like you said, Ross was in that Plan A, and there was no deviation from that. And I think I love that idea that plan B actually doesn't need to be inferior or hopeless or stuck forever in something less than. So talk to me about what you hope from your future. And of course, I know that you've got...
Yeah, well, this is my next step. So this comes out, guys, pre-order it. You're going to love it. It's broken down into 9 chapters, different areas where our confidence can dip. And I'm all about the chunked down work. There's actionable tips at the end to for mindset work, physical stuff as well, body language, vocal stuff. I write like I talk. So it's all, silly stories and stories of my clients with their permission. Some of the girls' stories, which you can read about. You'll have to read this one, Brooke. Yeah. It is on Audible as well. Not yet, though, but you can pre-order it. It comes out on the 12th of September. I will be doing on the 14th of September. I'm doing a small event, quite an intimate confidence event in Coventry, which I've not actually put out in the world, but anyone fancies a little trip to the Midlands. We're going to be doing Find Your Confidence live, and it's going to be really fun. And I've thought of... My bouncy brain has thought of really good ideas. I'll tell you about them later, which have distracted me from so many things because I've got lots of fun ideas for it. But we'll be doing that. I'm going on Lorraine Kelly again in September, which is amazing. So they are very supportive and very lovely to give me such a fantastic platform. But I will be talking lots about confidence this year. And if that's an area that you find, you know what, I recognise that's an area that I find difficult, then come and hang out with me on social media and in life possibly. And if you do want that link for the membership, it's free. You don't have to stay if it's not for you. I think you've got to find the right communities for yourself. But if it is for you, then you can stay. Just message me and I'll send you a little link for that as well. But yeah, future is, kick about with my kids when they'll let me, do some nice things and just continue to seek out joy and do all of that stuff. And eventually put it out there, Happy Me TV. Happy Me TV is the next step where we'll do all of this with fabulous guests, maybe like yourself, Sarah.
I'd love to.
And we'll talk all of this stuff and live our lives so we can feel more happy and less crappy, which is my job.
I love that. Isn't she amazing? Holly Matthews.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for staying.
Thank you for listening to our Wow Talks podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And we'd love for you to share your own wisdom on wellness. Join the conversation, share this episode with a friend, or follow us on social media for more updates at Wisdom on Wellness. Until next time.